This hearing was postponed from an earlier date, but the delay has proven most fortunate because it was just last Friday that after 6 months, the prime ministers of Kosovo and Serbia initialed an agreement mediated by Lady Ashton of the European Union. However, the document that emerged last week was entitled First Agreement of Principles Governing the Normalization of Relations, end of quote. So it is not the end of the process, and as it implies, there's much more to come. So today's hearing, we will look at what's been accomplished and what still needs to be done. Just this week, Kosovo's prime minister summed up the sentiment on both sides, and that is, and I quote, "Don't expect us to start loving each other." So the divisions are still there and they run very deep. A huge issue has been the status of the 4 overwhelmingly Serbian majority municipalities in northern Kosovo, which borders on Serbia. The Kosovars fought a war, a brave war, and a courageous war for independence because they did not want to be ruled by the Serbs. In the same token, the Serbs do not want to be ruled by the Kosovars. The principle of self-determination, I believe, should apply to everyone. And this wasn't a case over the years where American policy, or at least my involvement in it as a person who was deeply involved in these issues, was never based on because I like Kosovars more than I like Serbs, or vice versa, but always that the principle of self-determination is something that is written down in the American Declaration of Independence and should be part of the heart and soul of what Americans are all about. The United States and NATO supported Kosovo's independence with the use of military force, and it has also sided with Kosovo over who should control the northern Serb communities. Of course, they decided Kosovo. The Serbs have wanted autonomy for municipalities, and Serbia has been supporting, quote, parallel institutions, end of quote, to provide local services. While this first agreement favored Kosovo on the principle of, quote, authority over the northern disputed territory, the Serb communities will control their own areas of economic development, education, health, urban and rural planning. Thus, Kosovar authority here, you could read that, sovereignty in those areas is a facade. It's an illusion, which will come back to hurt both parties if an illusion just is allowed to sit in order to take one step more in a certain direction. The core of sovereignty is the control of security forces. The agreement places all police and security personnel under Central Kosovo Command. However, the Northern Regional Police Commander will be a local Serb appointed by the Kosovo government from a list provided by Serb mayors. The composition of the police force will reflect the ethnic composition of the population of the 4 municipalities. So it will be a Serb force under a Serb leader supposedly enforcing Kosovo law. There will be a division of the National Appellate Court established in the north with a majority of Serbian judges to hear cases from the Serbian municipalities. Serbia has not recognized Kosovo's independence and still stands in the way of Kosovo joining the United Nations or other international bodies as a sovereign state. Both did agree not to block each other's path into joining the EU. I don't know what that says about people who want to join the EU at this point. It's sort of wishing each other good luck. The New York Times called this a power-sharing agreement. What it doesn't do is satisfy the people most affected, and that is the people of northern Kosovo. As long as there is a clash of identities and a deep distrust born of centuries of conflict, there is a likelihood of more trouble. Negotiations between governments can lead to compromise, but they can also heighten tensions when core values are at stake. Perhaps it is time to consult the people living in the disputed areas and see what they want to do. The people living in predominantly Serb areas of northern Kosovo should be allowed to vote in a referendum for which country they would like to be integrated into. The parallel referendum should be held in predominantly Albanian areas in southern Serbia and surrounding areas, giving them the same choice. And that is an American concept, that the people of certain areas have rights to self-determination through the ballot box. But I don't think anyone will be surprised by the outcome if there was such a vote. The borders of both Serbia and Kosovo could be adjusted in accordance with the desires of the people who are living within those borders. Territory of about equal size could be exchanged to establish a new equilibrium in the region. The result would be two much more unified countries without the constraint and irritation of trying to rule over unhappy minorities who are looking across the border for help and sparking disputes. So I would be interested to hear from our panelists why such a democratic process would not be welcome, and what is truly the way to normalize relations between Serbia and Kosovo.